Greetings and salutations. It's been some kind of week. Um, Holidays are over. We're back doing our stuff, which means I'm in and out, which means I'm also not in my sewing room nearly as much as I would like to. So instead, I've been working on some small projects. Let me show you one of the projects that I've been working on. This is a lap size quilt that I made for my mom. Now, I was at her house this summer, fall probably, and we were going through some of her stuff. And apparently, I had bought this set of fat quarters when she was quilting, which was long ago. She's no longer quilting. And I said, hey, let me just make you a quilt top. She was like, sure, go ahead. So this is the quilt top that I made. It's been done for a while, and I really would like to move it on. Let's finish some projects because I have so many things I want to do. Not all of them are quilting. Most of them are, but not all. So I went through my stash and I found this fabric. It's been in my stash forever, but it's a great complement to the blues and yellows on the front. So I've been wanting to get better at hand quilting, and I decided this was a project I could do just some hand quilting on, and I can do it in the evening when we're sitting quietly watching TV or whatever. So that's what I've been working on, is the hand quilting on this laptop. Laptop. Quilt top. Anyway, oh, that's the other thing that happened this week. My laptop died, so I had to get a new one and transfer everything over. Because why not? Anyway, here's some of the other projects I've been working on. Well, it's Saturday. I'm working on some small projects this week because they've just stacked up and I've got to get something out of the way here. So this is a panel that I bought when we were traveling out in Utah. And by the way, it's beautiful. You should go out there if you haven't. But it's taken me over 2 years to decide what to do with this. And what I actually did is I just did a running stitch type of embroidery just to give it some texture. And I'm going to frame it out with this fabric, which actually looks really nice with the swirls and some of the natural lines that are in this panel. So while I was doing it, there was also these two little bushes. And so I've got these loops of embroidery floss here I've got to do something with. But I think I've decided what I'm going to do is just tack them down with some fabric glue to make them look like grass that's doing this. The other thing that I discovered when I laid this all out is I barely have a 1/4 inch at the top and the bottom of this panel. Well, I can only work with what I've got. So I'm going to go ahead and trim it up and frame it, and then we'll see about getting it hung up on the wall. A good sign. can't believe how much different it looks just being trimmed up. I'm not going to do the grass until I get the sleeve on the back to hang it with. This is going to be very pretty in our living room. I'll be putting the binding on with the machine. For years, I've bound my quilts by machine. I think there's a reason to change today. My hand stitching is okay, but not great. It's okay for small projects. So I'm going to cut this frame binding 2 3/4, just like I would for a quilt. Hook it together and run it around. See you soon. Well, that was quick and easy. I got the frame on. Isn't that nice? I love the way the embroidery kind of pops out the textures. And I had just enough of the binding left so I can make my little pocket for the dowel rod to hang it. And watching someone hand sew is a little like watching grass grow. So at this point, I'm turning off the camera and finishing this project. I'll see you another day. Well, it's Monday already. This is my week that's going to be really busy. The holidays are finally over. So I'm not going to get a lot of sewing done, but I am stealing away some time here and there to get some little projects done. Today I'm working on the twisted triangles. I've got 16 of the hexagons made. I need 35. So I had to dig out some more fabric, and that's what I'm doing today because I've really only got a couple of hours. Yesterday I made the cover for my chair and did some hand quilting. I've only got about an hour before I have to do the next thing that we do when we're wives and caregivers and whatever. I'm really glad I retired because I don't know how I got all this stuff done when I was working full time. But anyway, dug out the twisted triangles pattern again, reviewed the instructions again. Yeah, this is going to be a really fun quilt. It's not an easy block, but it's not terribly hard. At least it's big enough that, it doesn't take a bazillion of them. Anyway, here's some of the fabrics that I've chosen. With my tendency towards jewel tones, earth tones are not that much. It's hard to pin them out, but I found some that will work. And if you see them up against these fabrics, they actually work okay. Yeah, found some greens, found some browns. So I'll just keep cutting out blocks and sewing them as I get the time. These little jobs have to be done just like the big jobs. Anyway, I'll keep you posted on how things go. After reviewing these instructions, all of the fabric has to be either laying face up or face down so that the triangles all twist in the same direction. Good news, I read the instructions, so I'm not wasting a lot of fabric. And then I will just pair it up with some of this fabric already cut so that I can start blending it in as we go. I have a lot of scraps that are going to be like from this, as you get with um, circles and curved blocks, but that's okay. They'll all get used. By the way, uh, don't throw your ends and scraps away that you're not going to use. Either find an organization or a quilt guild that can use them. If they're too small to use, you can bag them up and take them to Goodwill and label them as fabric scraps. Goodwill actually will use them and distribute them to companies that will use them for filling and pillows and dog pads and things like that. So do try to keep it out of the landfill. I've been watching more and more videos from quilters that upcycle fabric. And I think that's brilliant. I had never really thought about it. I recycle as much as I can, but I'd never thought about all the other fabrics that are available for quilting. So as my stash diminishes, I will start seeking out fabrics from thrift stores and estate sales and wherever I can to try and do my part. Well, for the next hour, I'm going to cut more twisted triangles. See you later. Another busy day, so I'm only going to be in the sewing room for about an hour this afternoon. And yeah, I've been working on the twisted triangles blocks, and I'm coming along nicely. They take a little more time than I thought they would, but I don't mind. I have another project that's a really quick and easy project. I found the tutorials on how to make dining scarves. Now, I have never heard of a dining scarf, but I know some people that would like it. So I've dug into my stash and I've found some fabric that will work for it. I told my friend Carol about this and she got the giggles because she said, "Are we talking about bibs?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And I said, "But think of all the times we were in our office at the desk with napkins stuffed in our collars of our shirts so that we wouldn't dribble on ourselves because, well, dribbles happen." I also have some friends that are quite mature. They're seniors. So I think it really might be a nice gift idea. Anyway, I went to several different sites. I drafted my own pattern for the very first time. I'll put the dimensions down in here. There's nothing special about this pattern. Some of the patterns were really just straight, but I like the bell shape a little better. It does go over the chest and lay nicely. Let me show you what I've got. I've got a couple of them that I've just got to basically do the handwork on. How cool is that? I made them reversible. I chose fabrics that won't show stains. I mean, that is the point, right? So the other side is a nice floral. I have some other colors that will work for gender neutral. I suppose they're both gender neutral now that I'm thinking about it. Anyway, that's what I'm doing today. Hope you're having a good day and getting into your sewing room. See you next time. Well, I hope you enjoyed those video clips. Sorry. In addition to that, I went to the sewing lab this week and spent a couple hours making community kits. The Sewing Lab is a great organization, and I was making the or cutting fabric for the kits for wheelchair for walker pockets. You know those little bags they hang on the walkers. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. This outburst of giggles and scrambled up words pretty much summarizes the week. See you next time.